Hi, my name's Tracy L. Smoak. I'm an author, and I'm really passionate about helping people who have experienced domestic violence. If you look at the slide, the topic this week is, does your partner monopolize the money? And although that board game at home can be fun and somebody wants to get um, Park Place and run a monopoly, when you're home and finances are controlled by your partner, it's not funny. So I have a few ideas to share, a few resources that I've found. Let me just make a disclaimer. I am not an attorney. I'm not a trained lawyer. I am not a trained therapist. And I'm just sharing from things that I've experienced in my life or some things that I've discovered as a writer and researcher. So please, if you're in a really difficult situation, seek help. Go to police for a report, go to a hospital to document injuries, contact an agency, and I'll give you some resources. But if you're in physical danger right now, this is not the place. This is the place if you're uncomfortable, there's a pattern that's emerging, you're trying to make sense of things, and you just want some resources to reflect and process what's going on, what might be some options. So there are several types of economic abuse. One is your partner controls when and how money is spent. In joint accounts, money is taken out or misused without communication, without dialogue. It's used to purchase things you don't agree with. Another aspect of it is all property is controlled by the partner. Maybe the house is only titled in the partner's name. Maybe the cars are in the partner's name. And just what are you going to do? You feel trapped. You feel stuck. And I know for me in college, when I was in my situation, I was away from home. I was away from the protection of my parents. I was lonely. I was a little bit scared. I was in love with the idea of being in love. And I started dating a very handsome, very smart, very romantic person. But soon things sort of got out of balance. My parents gave me an allowance on a monthly basis to buy food and things that I needed, and they were training me how to manage a budget. And my boyfriend started saying, "Well, you have money, you should buy dinner for us," or "I need this." And, I had been raised to be generous and share. I didn't think anything of it. His car broke down, and so I had given him the keys to my car. If you get stuck, if you need something. Well, I found out on a Saturday night after I was already home back at the dorm, he'd gone out with a friend and taken my car and they'd gone out partying. And it's like, what is wrong with this picture? I started realizing that there was a slow erosion of respect. And what I thought on my part was generous and kind and sharing was being taken advantage of. And guilt was coming in, and manipulation was coming in. And it was a very difficult pattern, first of all, to identify. And then, second of all, just try and start extracting myself. Maybe you feel that too. Let's go to another slide and see what are some options. So, what can be done to stop the theft of your future? What if it's not just a boyfriend? What if it's your spouse? What if you have legal obligations on monthly rent, car payments, cell phones? Trying to establish boundaries there takes time, it takes wise counsel, and it's something to really sit and think through, particularly if there's been any episode of physical violence. It doesn't have to happen every day or every week. You don't have to have black and blue face, although sometimes that can happen. But if there's been any incident of physical violence, shoving, pushing, punching, the likelihood of that happening again, if that's what is needed by your abuser to keep you in control, it will happen again. So please be very, very careful. Don't assume just because it happened once, it'll never happen again. So one of the things you can do is just like 911 for emergency services. If you're desperately in danger or injured, there's also a 211 service. I didn't even know about that till today. Isn't that crazy? But that's established where there's all different organizations that provide social services. They can help with insurance for health. They can help with transitional housing. They can help with emergency payment on bills. So 211 is a number available in most states that you can call and just say, hey, what are the options? I don't know what's going on here. I need some help. On the screen also is another organization. It's the National Network to End Domestic Violence. They have some tremendous resources on their website. The link is there. They also have a phone number, and I'll put that in the description of the video. So if you want to call, if that's easier, just be sure if you're concerned at all that your partner or spouse might be tracking your web searches or your phone usage, before you start doing some of this research, make sure it's at a safe place where you can't be compromised and it's not going to escalate tensions. So maybe you're thinking, I don't really know if there's a problem. My spouse takes care of me, or my boyfriend gives me everything that I need. He gives me jewelry. I might just stay here. Well, if you feel secure, that certainly is a choice. But if you feel danger, if you don't feel safe, then you might want to start thinking, what are some strategic steps to position yourself for independence? It doesn't mean that you stop loving. It doesn't mean that maybe the relationship can work out, but it means if you don't put yourself in a position of strength, you don't have any options to explore except being more and more controlled. So what are some strategies? What are just some simple things? So having a financial plan, you need a written budget. You need to know what your expenses are going to be. And you might say, Tracy, I don't have any money. I don't have any job. I don't have anything. I have to rely on my partner for groceries. And if that's the case, there have been some choices you've made to not own your power. You are a bright person. You are a hardworking person. There are a lot of resources available to you. And if you're scared and you don't have anything to lose, then maybe it's time to make that gut-wrenching choice to step away and go somewhere safe and get some help from the community, and then figure out, is what you were feeling really love, or was it something else? Okay, so you can reach out to agencies for help to transition safely. There'll be some links in the text of the video. Something you may not have even thought about is, where are you going to get your mail? If you need to establish independence, you can't have your bills being mailed to a place where probably the abuser isn't going to take care of it. He's going to let your credit tank, or she's going to let your credit tank. So you may need an alternative address for mailing. You might need to look at the post office box and what's the time frame and a forwarding address. Another option is going and talking to your local banker. I know there's a lot of banking online, but I need to talk with a person. I just need to talk with a person. And you don't have to tell them the whole sob story, but you can just sit down and very politely and courteously say that you're in a relationship. There are some serious concerns, and you may need to establish your finances separately. And what could the banker do to help you work toward that end? And I have a really good friend. She manages a local branch, and I talked with her the other day, and I said, if a person came in and told you that there were some concerns, what would be some questions you would ask? And she said, the first question I would ask is, are you safe? Because if you're not safe and you need immediate help, I have contacts in the community. In fact, her bank does some corporate sponsoring for the local police department's fundraising. And they also established a grant for a battered woman shelter, the first one in our area. Who knew that? I didn't know that till I started talking with her. So she's very passionate about this topic as well. And she just said, first question is, if you're really scared, right from her office, she'll make some phone calls and get some people involved. She said, if there has been physical abuse, has it been documented with police reporting? Because an abuser may come back later with accusations that may be totally untrue. So you need concerns documented, particularly in a court of law. For example, if you're married and something tanks and you flee the house, if you don't have some sort of documentation, a really devious abuser can come back later and claim that there's been abandonment, that you left that person with all the bills and abandoned. Well, that may not be the case. Maybe you needed to leave. But if you don't have some documentation along that way, then you're just leaving yourself vulnerable. And I'm not saying this to scare you. You're already scared. I'm just trying to share some things so that you don't get caught off balance, trying to protect yourself and do the right thing and not realize some of the complexities that with an exit strategy, you can plan for ahead. So when you talk with your local banker, there may be some resources right there. She said she would advise you right away to make sure that you have a savings account and that you have access to some cash if you need it. And I said, well, how much does it take to open a savings account now? And she said it's $300 and you have to, at her bank, and you have to maintain a minimum balance of $300. If you go below $300, then it's $5 a month service charge. So if you don't have $5, if you don't have 50 cents, I get it. Maybe start looking real creatively where you can earn money. Maybe your abuser has prevented you keeping a job or really regulates what you do. I have some neighbors that have a dog walking service for the people who commute and the pets are left during the day. They've worked out a neighbor agreement where the one who's home will go over at lunchtime, let the dogs out, $10 or $15. And it's just a creative way of maybe start earning some income. Maybe you have something you could share. Maybe you've got a closet full of clothes that you could put on consignment. Maybe you don't have many clothes. You're afraid to go and talk to the banker. Well, I went to the thrift store this weekend. We had a little art festival downtown, and our thrift store had shirts, nice shirts, for $3. So it's all your mindset. If you start thinking of possibilities and potential, what can you do? Not what you're limited from or what seems impossible. But if you could set a goal for yourself each day or maybe each week, what's one positive step you can take? What's one quiet, confidential conversation? Maybe it's with someone at church where they have a food bank or they have access to shelters. Maybe it's to a family member and you're so ashamed. You don't want to say everything that's going on. But you just say, there are some difficulties. Could I please have a short-term loan for X, Y, or Z? I will pay you back. And I can't share more than that right now. Well, if they know you and they love you, they're not going to drill down for all the details. I'm sure they'll be curious and they want to help, but they will be happy to secure you, particularly if they know you're someone that's hardworking and you've never asked for anything before. So just keep those things in mind. If you already are employed, and maybe you're bringing in all the money and your partner's abuse is forcing you to be responsible for everything and not contributing anything. If you're on direct deposit, there may be a 60-day delay from transitioning from a joint account to an account solely in your name. So that would be something to think about too. And I know at work it gets a little awkward. You don't want your personal stuff out there, but it may be worth a conversation with an HR person, okay? Another thing to consider is Are you able to see an attorney and draft a separation agreement? Sometimes if the violence is such, you can't have a conversation, and that's going to be really dangerous. So talk with one of your domestic violence agencies. There are a lot of attorneys who will work pro bono. That means without fee, to help secure someone, because this domestic violence thing is not just you. It is throughout our country and internationally. In fact, the other day when I was doing research on the national hotline, for the first time ever, they had a message pop up that due to volume, calls can take 15 minutes to be processed. And if you're scared and you need something right away, you don't want to be on the hotline for 15 minutes. So whatever you can do to plan ahead is wise. So these are just some ideas. We've been doing a series on different things that are aspects of abuse, from intimidation to isolation. This one is on finances. I have them loaded in the YouTube channel under Carnival of Craziness, so that it's a little, there's a little bit of a privacy buffer there. They'll loop. I've kept them short, so if you want to go back and review, if you want to share them, you can share the link. It's just to try and help and realize there are options, and I care for you, and so many other people do. And I want you to be safe and feel confident. So the next slide says, own your future. And that just means stepping up. It means knowing that you can. It means knowing that you've got the inner strength, that you can find a way. You don't have to stop loving, but you do want to stop being taken advantage of. So be safe, take care, and set a goal. Start stepping toward a future that's healthier, not only for you, but all those who are connected with you and love you and admire you and want you to have happiness and wholeness.